The Thorn Tower, a monolithic spire of polished steel and tinted glass, pierced the city skyline like a testament to unyielding power. Within its hushed, opulent corridors, where the scent of expensive cleaning products mingled with the faint aroma of old money, Gabriel Thorn moved almost invisibly. In his late 30s, clad in the drab utilitarian uniform of a janitor, he was simply Gabe Miller to the few security guards who offered a perfunctory nod. His movements were meticulously efficient, his presence so unassuming that he seemed to melt into the shadows, a forgotten fixture in the opulent headquarters of Thorn Enterprises. Unbeknownst to the glittering world within, Gabriel was the estranged, disinherited eldest son of the ruthless industrialist and CEO Alistair Thorn, and the older brother of the arrogant heir, Julian Thorn. His nights were a solitary ritual. Long after the last executive had departed, leaving behind a faint scent of ambition and stale coffee, Gabriel would begin his work. He moved through the empty, cavernous offices, his mop and bucket his only companions, a ghost among the gleaming mahogany and hushed carpets. His face, often obscured by the brim of his cap, wore a distant, haunted expression, his sharp eyes observing every detail, every forgotten document, every subtle shift in the corporate landscape. He spent an inordinate amount of time cleaning Alistair Thorn's private penthouse office, his touch lingering on certain objects, a heavy bronze paperweight, a framed photograph of a younger Alistair with his two sons. Gabriel always meticulously turned this face down, a subtle yet deep resentment simmering beneath his calm, impassive exterior. This intimate, almost invasive access to his father's world was a constant, low-grade torture, a reminder of the life that had been snatched from him. Despite the bitterness of his own circumstances, Gabriel harbored a deep, quiet empathy, a trait entirely absent in the family he had disowned. One frigid winter evening, as he was clearing out the catering waste from a forgotten conference room, he noticed a young, nervous cleaner, Maria, furtively stashing uneaten pastries and half-full juice cartons into a worn plastic bag. Her movements were quick, furtive, her eyes darting fearfully towards the hallway. Gabriel's omniscient gaze understood immediately. She was taking leftovers for her hungry family, a desperate act born of necessity. Instead of reporting her or even acknowledging her presence, he silently returned to his janitor's closet. Later that night, as Maria waited for her bus in the biting cold, she found a sealed envelope tucked discreetly onto the bench beside her. Inside was a significant wad of cash, enough for several weeks of groceries, and a short, typewritten note, "For your family," or "There's a discreet food bank drop-off point at St. Jude's. Tuesdays, 6 p.m. No questions asked." It was Gabriel's handiwork, an anonymous act of compassion purely out of empathy and a desire to help those truly in need, a stark contrast to his family's ruthless pursuit of wealth. Gabriel possessed an uncanny ability, an eidetic memory, particularly for details, numbers, and faces. It was a trait inherited, ironically, from his father, Alistair, but honed by Gabriel into a tool of quiet observation. He could recall entire conversations verbatim, pinpoint the exact time a security camera's lens shifted, or identify a financial discrepancy in a ledger with a single glance. He occasionally touched a faded, jagged scar on his left forearm, a remnant of a childhood accident that had led to his estrangement from the Thorn family, a convenient excuse Alistair had used to disinherit his damaged eldest son. Gabriel guarded a crucial secret on a burner phone, hidden deep within the lining of his worn uniform. It contained an encrypted journal, meticulously filled with dates, names, and observations related to Thorn Enterprises, unusual asset transfers, suspicious offshore accounts, cryptic meetings, hinting at a long-term secret investigation he had been conducting for years, a quiet one-man crusade against the darkness he knew festered at the heart of his family's empire. He instinctively avoided direct eye contact with anyone related to the Thorne family, a survival mechanism born of painful experience. The cracks in the Golden Empire. The thin veneer of calm Gabriel had meticulously constructed around his life as Gabe Miller was about to shatter. For years, he had operated in the shadows of Thorne Tower, a silent observer, meticulously gathering fragments of information about Thorne Enterprises, waiting for the undeniable proof he knew existed. He had nurtured a simmering resentment, a quiet anger at the injustices perpetrated by his father's ruthless ambition. But his personal crusade had always been just that, personal, until now. A cryptic, anonymous email landed in his burner phone's encrypted inbox, an old, almost forgotten alias appearing as the sender. The message was brief, a series of seemingly random numbers and dates, culminating in a single chilling phrase: Project Chimera, Pension Fund, October 15th. It was a devastating blow, far more sinister and immediate than anything he had anticipated. This was no longer just about his family's hidden dealings. It was about innocent lives, ruined pension funds, and a toxic waste cover-up meticulously hidden beneath layers of corporate malfeasance. Project Chimera. The name itself was chilling, hinting at something monstrous. This scandal, if exposed, wouldn't just tarnish the Thorne name. It would utterly destroy the company, implicate countless individuals, and most agonizingly expose the depths of his father Alistair's depravity. The information suggested Alistair was knowingly involved, orchestrating the scheme with chilling precision, while Julian was either a reckless, ignorant participant or a willingly complicit heir. This new information turned Gabriel's silent resentment into a moral imperative, a burning need for justice that transcended his personal pain. He grappled with the immense emotional cost of exposing his own family, knowing it would shatter the last vestiges of his past life, burn every bridge, and leave him truly irrevocably alone. The phantom ache of the scar on his forearm seemed to throb, a physical manifestation of the internal conflict raging within him. Could he really bring down his own blood, even if they deserved it? The lives of countless anonymous victims, however, weighed heavier on his conscience than the ghost of a family he had long lost. The face of Thorne Enterprises' gilded facade and the symbol of Gabriel's deep-seated conflict was his younger brother, Julian Thorne. Julian was everything Gabriel was not: loud, ostentatious, and supremely confident in his inherited entitlement. A spoiled, narcissistic playboy, Julian was obsessed with projecting an image of effortless superiority, constantly seeking validation through lavish displays of wealth. He frequently threw extravagant parties at the Thorne Tower's penthouse, showcasing his inherited millions, and treated service staff, especially janitors like Gabriel, with open contempt, seeing them as utterly beneath his notice, disposable cogs in his gilded machine. He knew nothing of Gabriel's true identity, convinced his elder brother was either dead or permanently out of the picture, viewing Gabe Miller as nothing more than a disposable grunt. The stage for their inevitable confrontation was set when Thorne Enterprises announced its annual Legacy Gala, a lavish charity event scheduled to take place at the Thorne Tower's penthouse ballroom. It was designed to project an image of philanthropy, power, and unwavering success, a stark contrast to the dark secrets festering beneath its polished surface. Gabriel, through his covert network of information, learned a crucial detail: the vital digital files related to Project Chimera, the damning evidence of the illegal scheme, would be subtly transferred during this party. A secure, temporary network, ostensibly for guest entertainment and silent auctions, would be set up for the event, acting as a covert conduit for the illicit data transfer. This was it. This was his opportunity to gain direct access to the irrefutable evidence. He knew this meant putting himself in grave danger, risking recognition by his father or Julian, and shattering the fragile anonymity he had cultivated for years. The thought of facing them, of peeling back the layers of deceit, filled him with a cold dread. Yet, the moral imperative, the faces of the ruined pensioners, the knowledge of the toxic waste seeping into innocent communities, it propelled him forward. There was no other way. This gala, meant to be a celebration of the Thorns' power, would instead be the crucible of their downfall. The point of no return had been crossed. The scorn of the Scion. The Thorn Tower penthouse ballroom glittered, a dazzling testament to the Thorn family's boundless wealth. Crystal chandeliers dripped diamonds of light onto polished marble floors, reflecting the shimmering gowns and impeccably tailored suits of the city's elite. The air, thick with the scent of lilies and expensive perfume, hummed with hushed conversations and the lilting strains of a live string quartet. Champagne flutes clinked, laughter rippled, and a carefully curated image of philanthropy and power shimmered over everything. Gabriel Thorn, in his humble janitor's uniform, moved through it all like a ghost, his presence so unassuming he was virtually invisible, a quiet observer in a world that had once been his. He meticulously cleared empty glasses, wiped down surfaces, his eyes constantly scanning, his eidetic memory absorbing every detail, every face, every subtle interaction. His internal calm was shattered when he heard a voice, sharp and cutting, slice through the ambient hum. "Well, well, well, look what the cat dragged in. Still cleaning up after everyone, Gabe?" It was Julian Thorn, Gabriel's younger brother. Julian, already several glasses of champagne into the evening, radiated an aura of arrogant self-importance. He was surrounded by a small, fawning entourage of equally entitled young socialites, their laughter echoing his every vapid pronouncement. Julian's eyes, cold and dismissive, swept over Gabriel's worn uniform, a sneer twisting his perfectly sculpted features. He made no attempt to keep his voice down, ensuring his cutting remarks were overheard by several guests, including his father, Alistair Thorn, who stood nearby, engaged in a conversation with a prominent senator. "Honestly," Julian continued, gesturing dismissively at Gabriel with his champagne flute, "some people just never aspire to anything beyond the broom closet. It's a rather depressing thought, isn't it? Cleaning up after the real masters of the universe." He paused for a beat, letting his disdain hang in the air, eliciting a few forced titters from his sycophantic friends. "Tell me, Gabe, does it ever occur to you to, I don't know, think beyond dirt and grime? Or are certain minds just incapable?" He then waved his hand imperiously. "Go on, Gabe. I need another bottle of the AO8 Cristal. The good stuff. Not that rot gut they're serving on the main tables. You know where the service elevator to the restricted cellar is, don't you? Try not to break anything on your way down. It's terribly expensive." It was a deliberate act of petty power tripping, a public assertion of his superiority designed to further humiliate Gabriel. Gabriel's jaw tightened, a silent battle raging within him. Every fiber of his being screamed to retaliate, to shatter Julian's arrogant facade. But he maintained his stoic demeanor, his expression impassive. He simply nodded, a slight, almost imperceptible dip of his head, and began to move away, his mop bucket rolling quietly. As he moved towards a service entrance, his eyes, scanning a nearby discrete digital display panel used for event logistics, caught a fleeting electrical anomaly. A complex series of numbers and symbols flickered erratically, then stabilized. It was a subtle security bypass, a vulnerability that could compromise the temporary network Julian had unwittingly referred to earlier, the network intended for the illicit data transfer. Gabriel's eidetic memory and innate understanding of intricate systems, a genius for patterns that transcended his current disguise, instantly recognized the flaw. His gaze sharpened, a flicker of his true intellect visible only to the silent cameras and the omniscient narrator. Without breaking stride, he casually, almost imperceptibly, reached out and adjusted a loose network cable connected to a nearby service panel, a quick, almost unconscious movement. The anomaly vanished. He had fixed it, unwittingly strengthening the very network he planned to exploit, but also ensuring its integrity for his later, more crucial intervention. Julian, still pontificating to his friends, remained entirely oblivious. As Gabriel proceeded to the service elevator, he overheard Julian, his voice still loud and boastful, rambling about his father's vast collections. "Oh, and Father's been obsessed with that antique chess set lately. You know, the one grandfather Alistair brought back from, where was it, Turkmenistan? Said it's the key to his personal safe. Quite the relic, but Father insists it's the most secure thing in the house. Old-fashioned but effective, he says." Julian chuckled, completely unaware of the vital piece of information he had just carelessly given away. He thought it was a trivial detail, merely boasting about his father's eccentricities. Gabriel's ears perked up. The antique chess set. He knew of it. A unique, intricately carved set his grandfather had indeed brought back from his travels. He also knew of a hidden compartment within that very chess set, a secret known only to a select few within the family. A detail he had discovered years ago in a dusty, forgotten family history. This was the specific, vital clue he had been waiting for, the missing piece to unlock the true nature of his father's secrets. Julian continued to revel in his perceived superiority, utterly oblivious to the dangerous knowledge Gabriel had just gained, knowledge that would be the key to his family's downfall. Gabriel offered a polite, almost imperceptible nod to a passing waiter and retreated into the shadows of the service corridor, his expression impassive, but his mind now racing with a frantic, exhilarating speed. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place. Alistair Thorne, Julian's father, had observed his younger son's public belittling of the janitor. He frowned slightly, a fleeting, uncomfortable sense of familiarity pricking at his conscience. The janitor's precise, almost graceful movements as he cleared the spilled drink, the quiet intensity in his eyes, had struck a dissonant chord. It was a fleeting echo of his first eldest son, Gabriel, whom he had ruthlessly disinherited and believed to be long gone, perhaps even utterly ruined, a convenient ghost from his past. He dismissed the thought as a trick of the light, a figment of his overtaxed mind, a flicker of guilt quickly suppressed by his ruthless ambition and the overwhelming presence of the powerful senator he was trying to impress. He had no idea how profoundly that fleeting thought would soon come to haunt him. The hunt for the truth. The Thorne Tower, a fortress of power and secrecy, hummed around Gabriel like a living entity. Its advanced security systems, designed to protect Alistair Thorne's empire, were now the formidable obstacles in his path. He had just learned the crucial piece of information. The antique chess set and its hidden compartment held the key to his father's secrets. His objective, Alistair Thorne's private office, nestled on the top floor, a heavily guarded sanctum that even during a gala would remain impenetrable to most. Gabriel knew the building's quirks, the tiny blind spots in its surveillance, the predictable rhythms of its night security patrols, but the task before him felt monumental. He had to act quickly. The secure data transfer on the temporary network would conclude by the end of the gala, and with it, his window of opportunity would close. He began his silent ascent, moving through service corridors and deserted stairwells, avoiding the glittering main elevators that would expose him. His eidetic memory, a silent map in his mind, guided him through the labyrinthine pathways. He knew where every camera lens focused, every motion sensor lay hidden. He moved with a quiet urgency, his mop bucket and cleaning cart serving as perfect camouflage, allowing him to appear as nothing more than a diligent janitor on his rounds. The greatest, most unpredictable obstruction, however, came not from the security systems, but from Julian. His younger brother, still basking in the glow of his perceived superiority, made frequent, unpredictable visits to his father's office. Julian would often bring guests to show off Alistair's opulent workspace, or simply retrieve more champagne from a hidden minibar. Each visit was a heart-pounding near miss for Gabriel. Once, as Gabriel meticulously wiped down Alistair's large desk, he heard Julian's boisterous laughter approaching. He had less than 10 seconds to conceal himself. With a practiced swiftness, he ducked behind a large, ornate filing cabinet, holding his breath as Julian and his guests swept into the room, oblivious. Gabriel could hear Julian loudly boasting about his father's latest acquisitions, completely unaware of the life-or-death game being played out inches from him. These interruptions added layers of heart-pounding tension, turning a calculated infiltration into a high-wire act. Gabriel was completely alone in this mission. He relied solely on his wits, his intimate knowledge of the building, and his acute understanding of his family's habits. Every creak of the floorboards, every distant murmur of voices, every flicker of light on the security monitors in the hallway felt like a personal challenge. His hand, though steady from years of careful precision, occasionally twitched with the raw nerves of his task. His target, the antique chess set, sat prominently on a large, intricately carved side table in Alistair's office. It looked innocuous, a decorative piece, but Gabriel knew its secret. He approached it carefully, his eyes scanning for any hidden tripwires or pressure plates. He remembered the specific, almost imperceptible seam on one of the rooks, the precise twist needed to activate the hidden compartment. As he worked, a quiet, almost inaudible vibration came from the burner phone hidden in his uniform pocket. It was a text message. He pulled it out discreetly, his eyes scanning the screen. It was from Maria, the cleaner he had helped months ago. She was working an extra shift in the general security office tonight, having been granted more responsibilities after Alara's earlier expose at Evergreen Department Store. From the previous story, now a subtle, interconnected detail within this larger narrative universe. Maria had noticed Officer Briggs, the security chief, now elevated in his role at Thorn Tower but still fiercely loyal to his disgraced uncle, Victor Thorn, acting suspiciously. Briggs, nervous about the ongoing investigations into his uncle's activities, had been making extra unpredictable patrols around Alistair's office, clearly instructed by Alistair to ensure no one was snooping during the gala. Maria, remembering Gabriel's quiet kindness and sensing something was amiss with Briggs's unusually diligent presence, had discreetly sent him a warning. "Briggs is on high alert around Thorn Sr.'s office. Extra patrols. Be careful." Gabriel felt a cold surge of appreciation for Maria's quick thinking. She was unknowingly aiding his mission, providing a crucial early warning. He tightened his grip on the chess piece, the added pressure intensifying his focus. The critical evidence, a physical ledger detailing years of illicit transactions, and a small encrypted hard drive containing irrefutable digital proof of Thorn Enterprises' illegal scheme, implicating Alistair and possibly Julian in the Project Chimera cover-up, was within reach. The grand ball continued below, a symphony of deceit and opulence, while in the silent, heavily guarded office above, a son prepared to dismantle his own family's dark legacy. The clock was ticking, and the predator was about to become the prey. The unveiling of secrets and a family's fall. The frantic energy of the Legacy Gala pulsed beneath him, a muffled symphony of laughter and clinking glasses. In Alistair Thorn's private office, a single bead of sweat trickled down Gabriel's temple as his fingers, guided by memory and years of simmering purpose, finally located the almost invisible seam on the antique chess rook. With a precise twist and a barely audible click, a small section of the base slid open, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside lay the damning truth, a worn, leather-bound ledger, its pages filled with meticulously recorded illicit transactions, and a small, encrypted hard drive, the digital key to Project Chimera's toxic secrets. Triumph surged through Gabriel, a powerful, intoxicating wave. He carefully extracted the items, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and exhilaration. Just as he secured the evidence in a discreet inner pocket of his uniform, the office door burst open. Julian Thorne stood there, framed by the opulent hallway, his eyes wide with surprise. He hadn't expected anyone to be in his father's private sanctuary. He swayed slightly, the effects of champagne visible, but his gaze narrowed instantly on Gabriel. "Gabe?" Julian slurred, his voice laced with suspicion. "What in the hell are you doing in Father's office? Cleaning now? Get out! This area is off limits." He took a step forward, his hand reaching out to grab Gabriel. Gabriel, cornered, knew his anonymity was shattered. His time for quiet subterfuge was over. He slowly turned, facing his brother, and with a deliberate, almost theatrical gesture, he removed his janitor's cap. The fluorescent light of the office caught his face, revealing the sharp, intelligent eyes, the familiar jawline that mirrored Alistair's, and the faded, jagged scar on his left forearm, a silent testament to a childhood accident that Alistair had used to justify his disinheritance. "Hello, Julian," Gabriel said, his voice calm and clear, utterly devoid of the subservience Julian expected. "It's not Gabe. It's me. Gabriel." Julian froze, his mouth agape. Disbelief warred with dawning recognition, twisting his face into a grotesque mask of confusion, then horror, then pure, unadulterated fury. "Gabriel, no! You're dead! You were supposed to be gone!" He lunged forward, a wild, drunken rage contorting his features. "What are you doing here, you filthy imposter?" But Gabriel, anticipating the attack, moved with surprising strength and agility, easily evading Julian's clumsy lunge. He had years of pent-up frustration and a deep understanding of Julian's predictable impulsiveness. He knew this was his moment. "What's going on here?" Alistair Thorne's booming voice cut through the stunned silence. He had been alerted by the commotion, his face a thundercloud of irritation. He strode into the office, his eyes immediately falling on Gabriel, then on Julian, who was flailing wildly. Gabriel seized the opportunity. He stepped out of the office, into the adjacent penthouse hall, where the gala guests, drawn by the raised voices, had now formed a hushed, curious crowd. Their chatter died as they recognized Alistair Thorne's furious face, then shifted their gaze to the unassuming janitor confronting him. "Ladies and gentlemen," Gabriel's voice rang out, clear and resonant, cutting through the shock, imbued with a quiet authority that commanded instant attention. "My name is Gabriel Thorne. I am Alistair Thorne's eldest son, and this man," he gestured to Julian, now red-faced and sputtering, "is my brother." Gasps rippled through the gathered elite. Alistair Thorne's face drained of all color, going from furious red to ashen white. He tried to dismiss Gabriel as a crazed impostor, his voice shaking with a desperate, uncharacteristic fear. "This is preposterous. This man is a fraud. Security." But Gabriel was relentless. He pulled the leather-bound ledger and the hard drive from his pocket, holding them aloft for all to see. "These are not the ramblings of a fraud, Father. These are the meticulous records of your fraud. This ledger documents years of bribery, money laundering, and illegal land speculation, all tied to your Thorne enterprises. And this hard drive," he held up the small device, its sleek surface reflecting the glittering lights of the ballroom, "contains the full, irrefutable evidence of Project Chimera, your toxic waste cover-up scheme that has poisoned communities and ruined countless lives, all for profit." He detailed the entire scheme with chilling precision, recalling dates, names, and figures from his eidetic memory. He spoke of the shell corporations, the manipulated land appraisals, the quiet destruction of pension funds, the eidetic memory, the faded scar on his arm, the intimate knowledge of the Thorne family's deepest, darkest secrets. It all confirmed Gabriel's identity, shattering Alistair Thorne's desperate denials. The carefully constructed image of the philanthropic titan of industry began to crack, then splinter, then utterly collapse before the eyes of his peers. Guests gasped, some horrified by the revelation, others secretly relieved to see the ruthless magnate finally facing his reckoning. Journalists, alerted by a pre-planned anonymous tip from Maya, the journalist he helped in an earlier chapter, now subtly woven into this larger narrative universe, swarmed the scene, their cameras flashing, microphones thrust forward. The very public image Alistair Thorne had meticulously crafted for decades was unraveling in real time. Julian Thorne, witnessing his entire life of inherited entitlement crumble, was beside himself. He screamed denials, attempting to discredit Gabriel, but his words were lost in the rising clamor, his arrogant bluster transforming into pathetic, desperate rage. His face contorted, a mixture of terror and impotent fury. Alistair Thorne stood frozen, his eyes wide with a profound, terrifying defeat. His empire, built on a foundation of deceit and ruthlessness, was crumbling before his very eyes, exposed by the son he had disowned. Maria, the cleaner Gabriel had helped, now working a catering shift at the gala, watched from the periphery, her eyes wide, a quiet victory blooming in her heart for the wronged. The once impregnable fortress of Thorne Enterprises had been breached from within by a man they had scorned as nothing more than a janitor. Justice, swift and undeniable, had finally descended. The ashes of power, the seeds of new growth. The fallout from Gabriel Thorne's dramatic revelation at the Legacy Gala was immediate and catastrophic for the Thorne Empire. Alistair Thorne, stripped bare of his carefully constructed facade, was arrested on the spot. His desperate cries of imposter quickly silenced by the arriving authorities. Thorne Enterprises faced a massive, swift investigation, with the ledger and the hard drive providing irrefutable evidence of years of intricate fraud, money laundering, and corporate malfeasance related to Project Chimera. The company's stock plummeted, its assets were frozen, and within weeks, the once unassailable empire crumbled into bankruptcy, facing countless lawsuits from ruined pension holders and poisoned communities. Alistair Thorne, once the epitome of unchecked power, was now a broken man, facing a lifetime behind bars. Julian Thorne, his life of inherited entitlement shattered, spiraled into public disgrace. His frantic denials at the gala, captured by the swarming media, made him a figure of ridicule. While he wasn't directly implicated in the deepest layers of his father's schemes, his reckless ignorance and complicity in the cover-up meant he faced minor charges for obstruction and conspiracy. He lost his vast inheritance, his social standing dissolved, and his name, once synonymous with glamour, became a byword for arrogance and failure. He vanished from the public eye, his gilded life reduced to ashes. For Gabriel, the immediate aftermath was a whirlwind of legal proceedings and complex investigations. He worked tirelessly with authorities, his eidetic memory proving invaluable in disentangling the intricate web of deceit woven by his father. He meticulously helped identify victims, trace hidden assets, and dismantle the corrupt structures Alistair had built. He sought no personal gain from the recovered assets, instead ensuring that they were directed towards restitution for the victims and environmental cleanup efforts for the affected communities. However, a small hidden fund, ethically established by his late mother years ago, a quiet act of foresight against her husband's potential corruption, now became accessible to Gabriel. He used these funds, not for luxury, but as the seed capital for a new ethical financial venture focused on transparency and social good, a direct antithesis to his father's legacy. He deliberately retained a quiet, dignified life, actively avoiding the spotlight, his purpose driven by justice, not fame. One crisp autumn morning, Gabriel met Maria, the cleaner he had helped, in a small, quiet cafe, far from the echoes of Thorne Tower. Maria, her eyes wide with a mixture of awe and concern, spoke hesitantly. "Mr. Thorne, Gabriel, what you did, it was incredible. But are you okay? After all of it? Gabriel smiled faintly, a genuine, if weary, expression. It was necessary, Maria. The secrets, the lies, they were poisoning everything. My family's legacy, the city, even me. He took a sip of his coffee. For years, I told myself I was just observing, protecting myself. But deep down, I knew I had to act. It was a burden, keeping those secrets. Now it's a different kind of burden, but a lighter one. The weight of truth. He looked at Maria, recognizing her quiet integrity. The same genuine compassion he had seen the night she had taken food for her family. Maria, he said, his voice firm with purpose, I'm starting a new venture, a financial consulting firm, but one built on absolute transparency, on helping people, not exploiting them. I need someone I can trust implicitly, someone with a strong moral compass, someone who isn't afraid to see the truth, even the uncomfortable parts. Maria's eyes widened, a flicker of surprise, then profound hope. She had spent years cleaning up after others, literally and figuratively. Now she was being offered a chance to build something entirely new, something good. I would be honored, Gabriel, she stammered, her voice thick with emotion. She became his first hire for his new venture, her quiet integrity a core value, her lived experience a constant reminder of the human cost of corporate greed. A few months later, a brief, poignant encounter occurred. Gabriel, walking past a soup kitchen during his volunteer work, saw Julian. His younger brother, once immaculately dressed, was now clad in worn, ill-fitting clothes, serving meals to the homeless. Julian looked up. Their eyes met across the crowded room. There was no arrogance, no sneer, only a profound, raw humility in Julian's gaze. He nodded, a small, almost imperceptible gesture of acknowledgement. Gabriel nodded back, a silent understanding passing between them. He offered no words, no judgment, but the unspoken message hung in the air. A chance for true redemption, earned through humility and quiet service, awaited Julian, should he choose it. The ashes of power had indeed sown the seeds of new growth, even in the most unlikely of places. The towering edifice that once cast a shadow of corporate greed over the city now stood as a beacon of transparency and justice. The Thorn Tower, meticulously stripped of its opulent, corrupt symbolism, had been renamed the Veritas Tower, Latin for truth. Its once imposing cold marble lobby now boasted a minimalist, inviting design, featuring living green walls and open, collaborative spaces. The old menacing Thorn Enterprises logo had been replaced by a simple, elegant compass rose, symbolizing guidance, integrity, and a clear moral direction. Gabriel Thorn, now publicly recognized and deeply respected, was no longer a ghost in the shadows. He was the visionary CEO of Veritas Solutions, a thriving, ethical financial enterprise that had quickly become a respected force in corporate accountability and socially responsible investment. He had built a company that actively championed fair business practices, provided transparent financial guidance, and invested in sustainable, community-focused projects. His reputation for integrity was unblemished, a stark contrast to the legacy of his family name. He still preferred a quiet life, avoiding the clamor of celebrity, but his presence commanded a profound respect in every room he entered. Maria, the cleaner Gabriel had helped years ago, had flourished under his mentorship. She was now a key figure in Veritas Solutions, overseeing community outreach and employee welfare programs. Her quiet integrity and deep understanding of the human element in business were invaluable assets, ensuring that Veritas Solutions never lost sight of its core values. She managed the company's internal ethics review board, a vital part of its commitment to transparency. Gabriel's commitment to justice extended far beyond his own company. He established the Hidden Scars Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to supporting whistleblowers and victims of corporate fraud. The foundation provided comprehensive legal and financial assistance, offering a lifeline to those brave enough to expose corruption but vulnerable to retaliation. He actively educated young business students on ethical leadership, sharing his unique, powerful story not as a tale of vengeance but as a cautionary lesson and a blueprint for building businesses with a conscience. His lectures, delivered with quiet intensity, captivated aspiring entrepreneurs, challenging them to redefine success. Occasionally, Gabriel would hear whispers or catch a glimpse of Julian. His younger brother, having truly hit rock bottom after the collapse of the Thorn Empire and his brief legal troubles, had undergone a profound transformation. Julian was now working a humble, anonymous job in a small, local bookstore and volunteering regularly at a community charity that supported at-risk youth. He sought no recognition, no forgiveness from Gabriel, but his quiet, consistent acts of service were a subtle hint of genuine change, a slow, arduous path towards redemption. Gabriel watched from a distance, a complex mix of sorrow and a nascent hope stirring within him. The story ends with Gabriel in his minimalist office on the top floor of the Veritas Tower. Sunlight streamed through the expansive windows, illuminating a framed photograph on his desk. A younger, happier version of himself with his mother, her faint, proud smile a silent blessing. He looked out at the city skyline, a landscape transformed by his actions, by the courage to confront darkness. The Veritas Tower stood tall, a symbol of truth reigning over deception, a testament to a dark legacy dismantled, and a new, ethical future meticulously built on integrity, compassion, and the unwavering light of justice. If this story stirred your heart, if it reminds you that courage can alter destinies and that light always finds a path even in the deepest darkness, please leave a comment. Share this story with those who need inspiration. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell to never miss our upcoming stories.